So I grew up on the canned Pillsbury biscuits, and I'm not gonna front like they're not good, but I know we can do better than that. So today we're making, from scratch, buttermilk biscuits. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the ingredients that we need. I will say that I adapted this recipe from Edna Lewis's book, In the Pursuit of Flavor. Made a lot of modifications to the biscuit recipe, but I did study her technique and look at her overall approach to making biscuits. So what we've got here is 405 grams. That's approximately 3 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. We also have 26 grams or 2 tablespoons of sugar, 20 grams of baking powder, which is 2 tablespoons plus a teaspoon. We've got 9 grams of salt, which is 1.5 teaspoons. We've got 140 grams of cold butter, which is 10 tablespoons. And we've got 275 grams, or about 1 1/4 cup of buttermilk, okay? Cold, full-fat buttermilk. All right, so I've already sifted my flour, like I said. I'm gonna go in and sift in the rest of the dry ingredients. So the salt, the sugar, and the baking powder. And I really sift out of habit, but you don't need to sift for this biscuit recipe. But we've got all of our dry mixed in. I'm just gonna go ahead and whisk this dry. And now what we're gonna do next is cut in our fat, okay? And so again, the fat I'm using is butter. You want this to be really cold, and we want to go ahead and pour this into our flour mixture and get in there with clean hands. And what a lot of the old cookbooks say is rub in the butter. So we're breaking this butter down and really just incorporating it into the flour. So Edna Lewis uses lard, which I read a lot of old cookbooks by Black authors, and lard was definitely the fat of choice back in the day. Butter wasn't accessible. And I've tried making biscuits with lard, I've used shortening, but I always come back to butter. I just prefer the taste of butter. Okay, so I finished this up, and this is about the consistency that we're looking for, okay? Okay, so now that we've got our butter incorporated into our flour, we are gonna pour in our cold buttermilk. And what we want to do is we want to get this fairly hydrated, okay? When you first get this the buttermilk mixed in, it's going to probably feel like you might need more, but this amount works for me every time. So really, I'm not mixing this up too much. I'm really just trying to hydrate all of this dough so that it's not dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty this onto my work surface, and I'm going to get it together first of all, because it's going to be kind of shaggy looking, and I want to bring this dough together, and then I'm going to knead it very quickly, okay? Want to knead it enough where you can get some kind of flakiness going, but you don't want to knead it too much to where your biscuit becomes overworked and then it becomes tough. Get up all our pieces, and we're going straight back into this bowl. Biscuits, you're gonna get your hands dirty. Hands gonna look like this, but it's okay. So I'm gonna set this dough in the fridge for about 5 minutes just to let it cool, because we have worked the butter in the dough, and so it's warmed up a bit, and we want to stay working with this when it's cool. So dough has been chilling in the fridge for just about 5 minutes so it can stay cool. And I've got my work surface wiped down, and I've got a rolling pin, a bench scraper. If you don't have that, you can use a spatula or something. A little extra flour so I can keep this area dusted while I roll out. A biscuit cutter. If you don't have this, you can use like a cup, or you can also cut square biscuits, whatever works. A pan that's lined with parchment. We won't need it right now, but we will need it very soon. And so now we're gonna go ahead and roll out our biscuit. So I'm gonna put down a little bit of flour, and now I am going to pour out my biscuit dough, okay? You can still see it's kind of shaggy, but it's all good. We're gonna get it together. And what I wanna do first is just shape this into like a disc. Now I'm gonna roll this out into a tall rectangle, and we're gonna do a series of folds. And the folds are just going to give us those layers that we all love in the biscuits. And I'm gonna fold up till there's about a third left. And then I'm gonna fold this over the top. Okay? Turn it 90 degrees and I'm gonna do 3 more. Okay, so we've done 5 folds. Now we're gonna roll out this dough into a rectangle and go ahead and cut our biscuits from there. So I usually like to make sure that they're about 3 1/4 inches tall. Don't really want to go much shorter than that. You're gonna get really like flat, kind of thin biscuits, which we don't want that. I'm gonna take my biscuit cutter, dip it in some flour, and we're gonna go straight up and down, okay? Do your best to avoid the twisting motion. And you want to get them close together so you can get as many as possible before you re-roll. We will re-roll this dough though. 6, can I get a 7? Ooh, sure. Alright, so I got 7 out of the first go. Now I'm gonna re-roll this dough. So re-roll biscuits, I always re-roll the dough, usually once only. They don't look as pretty, but they do still hit. They gonna taste good still. Now, I've got my biscuits cut, and I'm going to place them on a parchment lined baking sheet. If there's any excess flour, you can just kind of brush it off. You don't want to really bake them with too much extra flour sitting on top or on the bottom. I've got the biscuits all placed on the baking tray. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit this baking tray in the freezer for just about 5 minutes. I'm gonna clean this up. We're gonna brush the biscuits out of the freezer. I'm gonna do a quick brush of egg wash over them before we bake them. The purpose of that is just to help them brown. Okay, so now our tops are all brushed with egg wash. We are gonna go into an oven that's been preheating 425 for about 12 to 15 minutes or until these biscuits are golden brown. So our biscuits are out the oven. They look good. They smell amazing. And mine took about 16 minutes to bake, so I would check them around 12, 13, but they probably will need a few extra minutes. So yeah, there we have it. From scratch, buttermilk biscuits. I feel like it wouldn't be right if I didn't taste one, so let's get to that. All right, I'm gonna take this one here. Nice and tall. Go ahead and open it up. It's still hot. I should be patient and wait, but I'm not going to do that, okay? All right, so I'm gonna take a little butter. I'm gonna keep this real cute. I mean, do you, however you wanna make yours. Make a sandwich, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm just gonna keep mine simple right now. A little butter, you know, a little bit. And we're gonna just drizzle a little bit of honey over this. Okay. You gotta have one fresh out the oven. Like, you gotta have one fresh out the oven. They're so good. They're tender, flavorful. Like, they're so simple. Only a few ingredients, but just, they're so good. Classic, man. I hope you make them. Hope you bake them for your friends, for your family, people you love. And until next time, happy baking.